Total expenses for week 10. Total expenses were $1,216 at 79 cents per mile. Total revenue was $2,674 at $1.73 per mile. That brings your net settlement to $1,458 at 94 cents per mile. Welcome back to Trucking the Seven Seas. In this episode, we're going to go over week 10 of the Landstar owner-operator program. We only have one load in this paycheck. It's a 1,400 mile load, which was pretty good. And then we end up taking another 2,000 mile load on this week as well. However, that 2,000 mile load doesn't hit the paycheck. So as a result, we only have one load to talk about. So this is going to be a pretty straightforward episode. If you are new to this channel, welcome. I started this channel in order to show exactly what truck drivers make. We started as a company driver working for night transportation, moved on to a lease operator working for night transportation, and now we are an owner operator working for Landstar. I show all of the loads I take, what the revenue is, what the expenses are, and I compile all this information that I put into a spreadsheet that I share with you at the end of every video. So if this is a topic that interests you, follow the channel. So I went ahead and ditched the microphone. That microphone was a piece of crap, and I'll never use it again. And we're just going to go with the straight microphone off of the phone. So if you hear some background noise, that background noise is the truck running because it's hot, and I'm kind of at the top of the truck right now, so I might be sweating a little bit as well. But we're going to go back to the phone microphone because it's all I got. So there we go. But last episode, we left off in Fort Smith, Arkansas. So we dropped a load in Fort Smith, Arkansas, and then I deadheaded to Pryor, Oklahoma, which is about 100 miles away. And we grabbed a load. You're seeing it on your screen right now, and I'm currently looking at it on my phone. So we grabbed it in Pryor, Oklahoma, and it's headed to Ontario, California. Ignore the rate per mile there. That is not correct. I'll go over what it actually paid in the spreadsheet. So we grabbed that one. It was a hazmat load, so it was like giant barrels of it was fiberglass resin is what it was, but it was hazmat. So yeah, not a big deal there. And it was headed to Ontario, California, which is a very good area. So I've been trying to book more like local loads. However, what keeps happening is I'll be in an area and I'm like, all right, I'll book a local load now. And then I'll get on the load board and there will be like a very good load that's like 1,500 or even 2,000 miles or something like that pays like $250, $290 per mile or whatever. And I'm like, well, I'm going to book that load instead. Like, I think this one booked for like $270, $280. Or actually, I got it. Let me, what did it book for? This one booked for, yeah, it was like $260 per mile before deadhead. And I'm like, well, that's just a pretty good load. So I booked it, right? So that just keeps happening. And the next one I book is actually like, it's a 2,000 mile load from Ontario to, where was it? To Louisville, Kentucky. So I booked a load after this one from Ontario, California to Louisville, Kentucky, and it paid $290 per mile, which is like a 2,000 mile load at $290 per mile. So I've been telling myself and telling you guys I'm going to book shorter loads, but then I just keep finding really good or decent loads that are like 1,500 or 2,000 miles long. And I'm like, well, okay, I'm going to book that, right? So that keeps happening. But anyway, so we booked this one going from Pryor, Oklahoma to Ontario, California. And then we booked another one going from Ontario, California to Louisville, Kentucky. So with that said, this Pryor load that you're seeing right now is the only one that's going to make the paycheck. So there's not a whole lot to show. So we're going to go ahead and just hop right into the spreadsheet right now. Actually, I'm going to show the travel boast real quick because I know you guys like that. So here's the travel boast. That's what the app is called. It's called Travel Boast. It's on the App Store. So we're going to do the travel boast before we get into the spreadsheet. So let's do that. Okay, yeah, so there was the route I took. Pretty good route, nice little 1,500 mile run, whatever it was. So that's all the states I covered. And let's get into the spreadsheet right now. For week 10, we did one load. The load paid $2,674 for an average of $1.73 per mile. Landstar's cut was 71 cents per mile at $1,099. Fuel expenses were $723 at 47 cents per mile. Maintenance expenses were $136 at 9 cents per mile. Other expenses, workers' comp, $72, truck scans, $2, escrow, $66, bobtail insurance, $34, license fees, $369, permits, $10, plates, $32, OmniTrax, $93, IFTA, $32, and EOBR, $8 for a total of $357 at 23 cents per mile. Total expenses for week 10. Total expenses were $1,216 at 79 cents per mile. Total revenue was $2,674 at $1.73 per mile. That brings your net settlement to $1,458 at 94 cents per mile. Total since starting the program, we have driven a total of 18,585 miles. Total expenses were $19,256 at $1.04 per mile, and that is my cost per mile right there. Total revenue was $29,042 at $1.56 per mile. And the total profit loss since starting the program has been $9,785 at 53 cents per mile. Averages and other information. Average weekly paycheck is $978. Average weekly miles is 1,859. Total fuel costs have been $8,857 at 48 cents per mile. Total maintenance costs are $5,088 at 27 cents per mile. Total other expenses have been $5,310 at 29 cents per mile. If I kept this up for a 52-week period, I'd get $50,886 and drive a total of 96,000 miles. Landstar 35% cut has equated to $9,652 at 52 cents per mile. Total deadhead has been 1,522 miles at 8% of my total mileage. We've been employed 70 days or 10 weeks, taken 10 days off, 60 days on duty, 17 total loads, and the average load length is 1,093 miles. Okay, so notes and caveats for the week. So we did have a maintenance expense right here. So while I was taking this hazmat load to Ontario, the lights started screwing up in the trailer. So I took the trailer into a Petro. They started working on it. And basically some of the lights were just like completely done for and needed to be replaced. There was a lot of jerry rigging going on. There was like a whole bunch of dead cables, I later realized. And the lights just weren't working correctly. And I also replaced the cable that goes from the truck to the trailer. I forget the name of it, the pigtail thing. Anyways, I replaced that, just put a new one in there. That was part of the problem. My electrical cord wasn't good there. And it cost me $136, so I took that and put it in there. The rest of it was covered by Landstar. So if you have an issue with the trailer, you just call Landstar and say, hey, I have an issue with the trailer, and they, they'll cover the costs. In this case, one of the housing lights it just wasn't working anymore. And there were a lot of like bad electrical issues with the trailer that needed to be fixed. So they fixed it. It did cost me a day. And one of the reasons why I only got one load in is because it cost me a day. And that day actually pushed this load into the weekend, and the shipper wasn't open on the weekend, so I had to wait until Monday. So that actually ended up costing me like an extra day and a half on this load, which is why one of the reasons why this is the only load in the paycheck. So that's what happened there. But I did have to replace my own electrical cable, which is part of the truck, and it cost me $136. So there you go. I also added this down here. So deadhead. So I added up the total amount of deadhead that I am running, basically. So far, it's been 1,500 miles, and that equates to 8% of the total mileage I've run, which is not good, not bad. I think you want it to be about 5% is what you should shoot for. I'm currently at 8, so that's not awful. Definitely want to try to drive that down, and I'll keep working on driving that down, but I added that in there. Just the deadhead and my percent of deadhead as well is at 8%. I want to try to get that down to about 5% though, but not terrible, not great. And again, this number right here, this is what I'm currently booking loads for before Landstar takes its cut and before deadhead. So far I'm booking loads at $227 per mile. Not happy with that. During the first month and a half or so, I was learning the ropes, and I was booking loads to get to certain regions in order to like grab plates and stuff like that. So I want that number to grow. My goal is, I've decided $250 per mile. If I can average $250 per mile, then I'm doing okay. And I think lately I have been doing that. Like this one I booked for $244, but this includes the 100-mile radius. I think this one was actually like $260 is what I ended up booking for. But then after the 100-mile deadhead, it dropped to $244. So this includes deadhead, and this does not. So just a note there. But shooting for $250 per mile, and lately I have been making that, so that's good. And I want that number to slowly climb up to about $250 per mile, which I think it will. And after Landstar takes this cut, $250 per mile after, and then Landstar takes its cut, I think it'll drop it down to about $1.70 or $1.80 per mile, something like that, depending on what the fuel surcharge is and things like this. But so that will be my goal. And if it's $1.80 to $1.90 per mile, or $1.80 per mile, this cost per mile right here will also go down significantly, in my opinion, because my maintenance costs are very, very high right now. So we'll see what happens. This is an experiment for me to see if Landstar is worth it, and you guys can see my numbers to see if it's worth it. But if I were to drop that down to say like 15 cents per mile, that goes down to about 90 cents per mile, right? And then if I'm booking loads after Landstar takes his cut, let's say I get $1.80 per mile, $1.70 per mile, my take-home pay would be around 80 or 90 cents-ish, give or take, per mile. So we'll see if that's worth it. These maintenance issues also have cost me a significant amount of time. There's about 2 weeks of maintenance issues bundled into here, not to mention this last issue right here did cost me about a day and a half. So yeah, if these maintenance issues get under control, then I think we'll be doing a lot better. But so far, the maintenance issues have really hamstrung me, and it's slowly going down. I think it reached its peak at like 30 cents per mile, but over the last couple of weeks, it's continuing to drop. So that's what's going on there. My overall is pretty crappy right now. Nothing to brag about there. Currently, I'd be better off as a company driver, but again, these maintenance issues have really hamstrung the last couple of months. So I think that'll go down. My average will go up as well because, again, the maintenance issues cost me 2 weeks. So that really brought down my average. That's what's going on here. Mostly a lot of maintenance issues. Like I started at Landstar and it was just 3 or 4 maintenance issues right in a row that cost me. Okay. So I think things will pick up. I'm optimistic. So we'll see if it keeps going. And if, this continues at, 50 or 60 cents per mile, it's time to move on, I guess. But that's not going to stay there. And it's been climbing up. Over the last 2 weeks, it was at, I think 2 weeks ago, I was at like 38 cents per mile. And then I was at 45 cents per mile. And this week I'm at 53 cents per mile. And I think next week might get to close to 60 cents per mile. And then, it'll keep going up and up and up, assuming I don't have any more breakdowns. So we'll see, though. Again, I'm not bragging here. Not ashamed. I'm just posting my numbers so you guys can make a more educated decision. But there you go. Okay, yeah. So there is week 10. Real down and dirty. Pretty simple. Only 1 load, so not a whole lot to show. 1 maintenance issue, and that's about it. So we're going to keep plugging along here. Next week, I took a load out of Ontario and it went to Louisville. It was $2.91 per mile before Landstar took its cut. So that was a really good load. I dropped it, but I dropped it like the day after the pay period end. And then I grabbed another load, and I'm actually heading to Phoenix. But actually, once again, the Phoenix load will be dropped the day after the pay period ends. That's what's happening there. Actually, I think I dropped the Louisville load like 2 days after the pay period end or something like that. So I'm getting my dates a little screwed up here. But anyways, next week, we're only going to have about 2,000 miles on the paycheck. And then the week after that, we'll be starting the week with like 1,500 miles or something like that. And then, so that's what's going on there. I am planning on taking the 4th of July weekend off. So I'm going to go visit some family in Oregon. That's going to happen. So I'm guessing next week will be an okay week. The week after will be a pretty good week. And then the week after that will be kind of crappy because I'm going to be taking a bunch of time off. So we'll see what happens, though. And we'll keep chugging along here. I do want to get this average up. That's not a good average, but I mostly blame the maintenance issues on that average, more or less. But I do need to start, I think, probably running a little harder and going from there. So, yeah. But that will do it for this episode. If you were interested in this spreadsheet or any of the other spreadsheets I've done in the past, they are available in the About section. Once you open them, just click File, Download, and then download it to a Microsoft Excel sheet. And then after you download it to a Microsoft Excel sheet, you can use it however you please. But that will do it for this episode. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.